Okay, this is my louver press. Let's move this around. Right, as you can see, that works rather nicely. Cuts these louvers out rather well. You can see it in action. Alright, so get it in focus. Yeah. So you can see what I've built here. It's all stainless steel tube, scrap metal basically. Got it all from the scrapyard. Made the section up, and a bit of box section on the bottom, just stainless steel. A little bit of stainless steel box section on the bottom here. Nice big thick steel plate for the base there. Then for the rest of it, for the slidey uppy down bit, the guide rails basically, I've got some steel tubing. It's thick wall 5mm thick steel tubing, and then another piece of tubing which would be a perfect fit inside there. In fact, I had to skim a little bit off on the lathe, just a couple of thou, just to make sure it's a nice sliding fit on there. Obviously got return spring on it, bring it up and down. Let's take that off. So you can see I've got a big chunk of metal here, just a through bolt going through there for the pivot. That's the top of the two tubes. Big lump of steel with a half moon piece of round bar on there. 2 bolts drilled and threaded and tapped into this plate here, and they act as locators just so they fit in there. So that's holds that in place, and that comes across, and that presses down on the centre of there, so you get a nice even force on both steel bars. So you can see that going up and down there. Then welded this large plate onto the bottom of these 2 tubes. 2 holes in there so I can bolt on accessories or whatever into this press. So at the moment I've just built this louver cutter. Again, big steel bar, big plate, which is the same as this one here. These were 2 Land Rover drop link shackle arms. Holes are in the right same place, so it makes it a bit easier. Big lump of steel welded onto that, and then another lump of steel welded onto there. You can see I've there we go. You can see I've machined a big groove inside this lump of steel here, so the cutter for the louvers can slot into there, and then 3 bolts drilled and tapped into that block there, so that will hold the cutter in place. Then this sprung loaded plate here, which come down, clamp the metal, and then the cutter will go through like that. And that just holds the metal around whether you're cutting the louver to try and prevent any distortion. And then for the actual cutter down below, I've got 2 big lumps of steel. Don't know whether you can see that, just about. So it's got a nice straight sharp edge on this piece here. And then this one here has got this section cut out for the shape of the louver. You can see something like that. So that's quite simple, just 2 plates, 2 lumps of steel, and they're just held in place with 3 bolts basically, one there, and one here. So this big plate here has got holes in it obviously, so makes it possible to bolt in various accessories and bits and bobs. So there's nothing fancy about that. That just stays there nicely. So yeah, that works well. And yeah, bit of red paint, the job's a good one. A couple of weekends work to build this. This also on this frame, because this frame is not strong enough to take the weight when you're really giving it some. On thicker material, I've put this bolt, big bit of threaded bar, drilled it right through, all the way through, down to here. So this will support the frame a lot more and prevent any up and down movement. I've just bought some steel plates here, got a couple of those, so I'm going to box in this whole tube, put some corners in it, strengthen it right up just to make it a bit stronger. So then I might have to change the shape of the cutter a little bit just so I can cut through steel, get some steel plate. This is a gives me a 4-inch cut, I think, 4-inch louver, so it's a good size. I probably couldn't go a lot bigger. As you can see, it's steel. I even managed to bend this rod here. That's 15mm steel bar. And also I have to use an extension rod on there just so I can get some good leverage on it and punch through. But yeah, I'll go back to my cycle cart here. So you can see these louvers. These are the ones I cut yesterday, and they've come out pretty darn good. Oh, falling apart. Yeah, so all nice and even, nicely spaced, and they look rather good. So when you're running your plate through that, what I've done is I've just put a nut and bolt through one of the holes, and that acts as a guide so the metal can come up to that. And then when you cut a louver, this surface here will rest against the back of the louver blade here, so you get an even spacing each time. So that will so you'll get, every time you stamp one out, you'll get an even spacing. So it's kind of self-aligning almost. Yeah, but relatively easy to make. And these were quite expensive to buy, so it makes sense to go through your scrap metal, buy a few bits of extra steel, and then knock something out like this. And also I can unbolt this louver cutter press and make other dies, such as a dimple die cutter or whatever, or just a standard bearing press, use it for that. So it has multiple uses. So next time I'll probably just get some round bar stock and then make up some dimple dies and see how that works out. But yeah, so all I've got to do now is weld on the plates around here, strengthen this framework up a little bit, lick a paint, and that's how you make a lovely little louver press. Yeah, okay, out for now.